Good morning and welcome to the Destiny Pharma PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll. And I would now like to hand you over to CEO Neil Clark. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a good long weekend. So this today is just a short presentation which really goes over the press release we put out this morning regarding one of our earlier stage programs, SPORE-CoV research collaboration, which has announced very exciting data today after a couple of years of very detailed work, hard work by our team and also our collaborators, SporeGen, who are the original discoverers of the SPORE-CoV approach, and also University of Liverpool, and indeed our partner now, collaborator and partner in Vietnam, Huro Biotech. So I'll move on to the slides. Through the disclaimer, please read at your leisure. So what we've announced today is quite a wide-ranging update on the SPORE-CoV program. I know people were perhaps expecting news earlier, perhaps last year, but we've been taking our time assembling the data, preparing academic publications, and also continue to analyze the data and next steps. What we've announced today is very excitingly from an earlier stage program is that the first human data delivered by our partnership in Vietnam with Huro Biotech, a study carried out there, a phase 1 safety study delivering very good data, showing that the SPORE-CoV nasal spray looks like it's obviously safe. This builds on the toxicology work we've done, preclinical work, so a robust safety package and the first human data. Also, as people may recall from the grant that was won back in 2020, we've carried out work with Liverpool and also commercial contractors looking at SPORE-CoV in various models of COVID-19, but also influenza. And data there has been very good, showing that it does have an effect, has the potential to suppress sort of the viral infection, also stimulate the innate immune system, and again, more publications and data to come on that as we continue the analysis. But basically, that was the core purpose of the program, and that's been very successful. So, early stage grant project in a collaboration, delivering successful data and really a live asset now moving forward to the next stages. We also signed an extended partnership with Huro Biotech in Vietnam, who are always the manufacturers of the material that's been used in the research project, but now they've taken that forward and scaling up, and in fact have launched their own product in Vietnam based on the work that the SPORE-CoV technology, the work that's been done on that program. And under local regulations, again, safety studies have been carried out. It's all being done to the high standards. A product, a sort of OTC, over-the-counter product, has been launched, and Destiny has a share of the royalties that hopefully will be generated from sales there. We'll have to see how that goes. It's early days, but very exciting to actually have a product which is being currently used in Vietnam, and we'll obviously look at how that's going and has the potential to be that product to be taken elsewhere across the world and to be used. So very exciting to give this update, as it were, very strong data, but as ever, looking forward, next steps are being discussed with partners. We have the potential perhaps to go down the clinical route, which is perhaps Destiny's experience. What we're currently doing with our other assets, of course, is to take programs through phase 1, phase 2, and indeed with parts phase 3 studies that we can potentially do with the SPORE-CoV program, but also it has the potential to continue to go down perhaps a natural product OTC route, as has been done in Vietnam. Local regulations vary across the world in what data you have to provide to enable you to do that, but very exciting to have the potential to look at these opportunities, and that's what we'll be doing in the rest of this year. So about SPORE-CoV, again, this was SporeGen's invention, as it were, showing that a bacillus-based formulation has potential to trigger an immune response. They had previously published data in influenza. That data has been extended. We've moved into COVID-19, but a very exciting approach using a bacterial formulation to trigger a response and give protection against respiratory viral infections. And of course, when this grant, an £800,000 Innovate UK grant, was won back in September 2020, we were in the middle of obviously a very challenging period, as we perhaps hopefully are forgetting now, but at the time it was a major concern, and it still is a concern. These respiratory viruses, COVID-19, coronaviruses, influenza, other respiratory viruses are still a threat. There is still interest in developing products, obviously vaccines, but associated products like Sporkov, which can work with vaccines or independently, can be stockpiled. There still is this concept of being, pandemic preparedness, and there are still, unfortunately, people who are in hospital suffering from these respiratory infections. So it's yes, it's less of a global concern at the moment, but it's still out there, and we still need to develop medicines that can mean we're better armed in the future when no doubt we'll have other challenges from this type of virus. So it's come out of work that SporeGen did. We entered into a partnership, and as the work we've done under the grant has confirmed what we thought at the start, that it's a sterile program, that no risk of administering live bacteria. It can be manufactured at scale. Huro in Vietnam have developed that, developing the process, very stable, easy to stockpile, and it can work alongside vaccines or independently, as I've suggested. And as we announced at the grant at the time, SporeGen led the process. We're a joint collaborator, but indeed there's other parties involved, and that has delivered very, very good data, and we've worked well together, and we'll continue to work well together as we look forward to the next steps. And under the original program, we were looking to do research work with University of Liverpool in COVID-19 influenza models, as well as doing toxicology studies. But through the collaboration with the Huro in Vietnam, we were also able to move into early human studies, safety studies, which have been successful as well. And on the back of that, under Vietnamese regulations, they've been able to move into a product. And there's early days there in the marketing and selling of that product, but that's very exciting. But basically, the program delivered on what it said it would do. We've already had one publication of some of the data from influenza models in Vaccines Journal. There'll be other academic publications to come. So we're looking at that with our partners. And as I keep saying, we're looking also at next steps. Where do we take this program now, moving forward? Do we continue going down the natural product route, as is happening with Huro in Vietnam, or do we look at drug development opportunities and taking it into, say, challenge studies, human challenge studies for COVID-19 influenza, which obviously are more expensive, but there are still significant commercial opportunities because there is still a clear clinical need. So again, an interesting stage of the program, but very exciting to be moving forward with a great data set. Of course, that is what really is the announcement out is today, that we've added real data across a wide range of studies to the original concept, and that of course puts us in a much better state to look at these partnerships and to move the product further forward. And Huro, just obviously they have a website. You can search yourselves. They're part of the PAN group, a very large group, an expert in the manufacture of the bacterial products, probiotics, and others, and working to high standards, WHO, GMP, and they've delivered very, very good material for the work that we've done, but also now have extended the collaboration and take it forward. And they've launched the product, an OTC product in Vietnam under the name Speramed. So a good partner and a very expert in what we've done. We've done site visits there, and we work well together, and looking forward to extending the collaboration and indeed continuing our collaboration with SporeGen, who were the original, as I said, the original inventors and discoverers of the approach, and a key part of the collaboration as we move forward. So the next steps, continue to review the data, academic publications, and looking at human study plans. We have developed outline plans for what clinical studies can be required. So we'll look at finalizing those potential studies at the size and cost, but that's a key part, of course, of the potential partnering route for Sporkov, going down that human clinical study route. Indeed, as I said, we'll look also at other opportunities with partners in the natural product world, and indeed continue to link up with our partner in Vietnam as they develop their product based on the technology of Sporkov. So we still believe there's a significant opportunity. There is still interest in, obviously, in battling and reducing the incidence and the damage caused by influenza, COVID-19, and other respiratory viruses. And indeed, governments across the world are still very interested in this general concept of pandemic preparedness. So the project, yes, is early stage, though it has actually completed its first human studies, phase 1 studies successfully in Vietnam, but still a very exciting addition to our portfolio. Of course, our main focus as Destiny Pharma is on delivering partnering deals for our lead asset, XS73, alongside the deal we've done earlier this year on M3. But it really is a great validation of the expertise in our research team, and our clinical team, Yuri Martina, Dr. Bill Love, alongside, of course, the partner, Sporgen, Huro, University of Liverpool, that we can work collaboratively and bring forward programs and take something that was really a relatively early concept through research and into its first human studies. It really is a great success for a biotechnology company. And again, another asset in our pipeline, which has great potential moving forward. So I'll end the presentation there and perhaps look to answer some of the questions in due course. Thank you very much.
Neil, thank you very much indeed for your presentation this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the top right corner of your screen. While the company take a few moments to review those questions submitted today, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via our investor dashboard. Neil, as you can see, we have received a number of questions throughout today's presentation, and thank you to all investors for submitting their questions. And Neil, if I may hand back to you and kindly ask you to read out the questions and give responses where appropriate to do so, and I'll pick up from you at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a few questions, which is great to see. So one question is regarding if we go down the clinical study route, what are the costs associated with that? Well, obviously, we can't give precise numbers at this time, but it's well established that if you move into, say, challenge models, influenza, COVID challenge models, phase 2 data, you have studies which run into costs of several millions of pounds, and no doubt could take 12 to 24 months to complete. So it's clinical development is a lengthy process that has high costs, but of course the potential is in the end product of a really strong clinical data set with a number of clinical studies, which means you can really provide the evidence to capture a market as a medicine, and also could help you with pricing. So we're looking at that, but we haven't yet established exact costs of studies or timelines, but definitely it will be of that size, I'm sure. In terms of expectations from the product Huro have launched, we've been very careful there on obviously not making any forecasts regarding potential revenues, but we will get regular, obviously, sales reports from the collaboration, and as revenues are received, they will be reported. So we'll update later on the year on that. But given the early stage of that product and the Huro's marketing, I don't want to make any attempts at forecasting quantums of revenues. It's still, though, very exciting to actually be part of a program that's delivered a product that is actually currently being marketed. It's obviously slightly unusual in a biotechnology company. We are at the clinical stage to have the potential to capture some recurring revenue. But let's see how that goes. And in terms of, we're not disclosing either the royalty share, albeit to say that it reflects the investment Huro are making in the whole program, but we do have a carried interest alongside Sporgen in any success there based on sales. In terms of other potential indications for Spore-CoV, somebody's asked a question about pneumonia. Definitely there are other respiratory infections where we believe, alongside sort of collaborators who have greater expertise than I do in terms of different viral infections, there is potential there. We will still keep looking at the data that we've generated to date, and also there are potential additional studies that be carried out. But we do believe there are other respiratory viruses where Spore-CoV could again deliver its effect, which is against to stimulate the innate immune system. It's not necessarily targeted at a specific virus itself. It's more of a general trigger of the immune system to act as that first line protection, to boost protection, which is why it could work alongside specific vaccines. So we'll see what comes out of further work, but definitely it has potential to be used more widely than simply COVID-19 or influenza. In terms of partnering discussions, it's as we've really only recently assembled or received the data package. It's at an early stage, but we will look to accelerate partnering discussions. Hence, making this announcement is a sort of line in the sand of showing that we've got near complete data sets. There are publications to come, but definitely we are looking to have with partners a campaign and reach out as you'd expect, as we do across all our assets. We're very much Destiny Pharma, very much a company that's looking to find partnerships, and that fits in with obviously our joint partner in this venture, Sporgen, as well. There's a question regarding obviously the product that's being launched in Vietnam in terms of selling it in other territories. I think, as I said earlier in the presentation, I mean, as indeed with certain medicines and drugs, as well as OTC products, regional and country regulations can differ. Different countries have different regulatory environments and have different requirements regarding the claims you can make on a product. And obviously, based on the data set we have in different territories, we may have to do additional studies to comply with their sort of natural product or OTC regulations, but it varies from country to country. But we will continue to look at that. It is not an expertise of Destiny Pharma, of course. We're sort of a GCP, good clinical practice, drug development company, but we do have consultants who do have experience in this space, and Sporgen have expertise in that area. So we will be looking at, as I said, both as it were target communities for partnering, but in all cases, of course, the local regulations and the regulatory requirements are key. You have to deliver the package and the data set that satisfies those local regulators to enable you to sell, as it were, your product. And that's what Hura have done in Vietnam. It's a well-controlled process, and they've met the requirements there. And of course, as we said during the presentation, have delivered human safety data, which of course is key to backdrop of all of this. We've demonstrated in that study that, and indeed the earlier toxicology research, that Sporkov is a very safe product formulation, and that of course is key to all of us wanting a safe product. But what's great, of course, is we've shown this efficacy as well, which will drive hopefully the value of this program as we move it forward. So I think that's all the questions.
Neil, that's great. Thank you for that, Neil. And I think you have addressed those questions you can for investors today. And of course, the company will review all questions submitted today, and we will publish those responses on the Investor Meet Company platform. But perhaps before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to the company, Neil, could I please ask you for a few closing comments?
Yeah, just to say it's really good to have another positive announcement on one of our programs, and very pleased with the collaboration with our partner Sporgen, and indeed for Destiny Pharma. Of course, I know investors really want the news to come from our lead programs as well. We're working hard on that with looking for partnering deals on XR73 nasal, and indeed continuing the development of M3. So a lot more news to come from Destiny Pharma in the next 12 months. But really pleased and excited today to deliver great news on a project which has run for a couple of years with partners, and has gone really well, and is well positioned to move forward and deliver further value for the company and for shareholders.
Neil, that's great. Thank you once again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you will now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Destiny Pharma PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation. Good morning to you all.